Welcome on back to a new edition of the N Harmon Show. I'm Dalton Wicks alongside my pal, Eric Harmon.
This week we have late updates for the MLB season, the NFL preseason, and of course we're diving deep on Lock D and Hope Solo. Solo.
What a power couple that would be. Just imagine it now.
Dude, their kids would just be the worst people in the world. That's just a fact.
Yeah.
They'd
some
be
troubled kids.
Yeah.
Some very troubled kids.
Like, they'd have so many. They'd be liars, domestic abusers. Like, oh my god. Like, oh, that's just bad. That's just
be
bad.
calling people names and
Yeah,
stuff and
it's-
making fun of them.
Calling everyone cowards.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll roast them a little bit
Let's
later.
start with
we'll
NFL.
Roast them a
Let's
little
start with
bit
NFL
Yeah, let's
first.
start off with the NFL. Good old
10 days away.
Yes.
I'm
We're getting
pumped.
close.
I am
We're
pumped.
Getting oh so close.
Getting those injuries, we're getting those fantasy drafts coming to the next week. I'm commissioning 2 leagues. I haven't set the drafts yet. I need to do that today for both leagues, hopefully.
You need to get on that, man. Get on top of that.
Season starts September 8th. I have time. Not really. I have like a half a week. We're going to have it on the 4th or the 3rd, probably.
All right, sounds good.
You guys are listening? 4th or the 3rd sound good? If you're not listening and you didn't, this is the official conversation we're having for that fantasy chat. So if you don't listen to this podcast, you're kind of screwed. That was to the 12 guys in my league. All right, so
let's get down to business.
Yeah,
all right,
let's get to
what's going on in the NFL right now? We'll start with some injury stuff. All right,
Yes.
dude. At this point, it's starting to get a little sad. I feel bad for the guy, Tony Romo, going down again.
Yeah, he cracked one of his vertebrae, one of the vertebrae in his spine or something like that. He's out 6 to 10 weeks, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, minimum 6 weeks.
Yeah,
so
it's a big. I mean, there's another guy on that field who we'll talk about a little bit later who might be able to cover for him. But Tony Romo is Tony Romo. We've seen him time and time again, prove that he has the heart of of a champion. Like, even though he hasn't won a championship, even then it sounds kind of weird, but this guy came in. I have the utmost respect as a Niners fan. We broke his collarbone. He came back into the game and beat us. Like, I can't really say anything bad about him after that. That was the ultimate show of just, I'm going to play the best football that I can. So it's tough to see him go down because I do like him as a player, but this is going to have probably some longer standing, bigger issues in the NFL, because I don't know if you've heard, apparently there's some rumors that execs are really talking about just eliminating preseason games altogether now after this season. This could be the last season.
Yeah, I'd say in Romo's case, that wouldn't be the one I would use to specifically make it so like, oh, we can't do any preseason or like we need to trim down the games. I'd say if it's just like a freak accident where a highly touted guy goes down and doesn't really have much of an injury history, then it makes a little more sense. When you have a guy that constantly gets injured and a guy that's kind of known for being almost like Derrick Rose level injury prone, that's not going to bring up too many, just because you figure he might just get injured in the regular season anyway. So
he's still one of their bigger names. He went through these injuries, but it's not like he went through the Derrick Rose loss of popularity, which is why I think the NFL would still care about it. He's still he's still the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys, and he's a good quarterback. So
yeah, well, you could mention, or you could make an argument that he is sort of teetering on that Derrick Rose kind of descent a little bit because of the fact that he just hasn't stayed on the field as much in recent years. And like, he's good when he's on there, but he's not fantastic. And Derrick Rose, when he started to make his way back to the court, was good but not fantastic. So I mean, Derrick Rose was really good in his heyday.
I still think Tony Romo was closer to fantastic than Derrick Rose was. I mean,
well, no, in their prime, Derrick Rose
even
was
in
way
his
better
last
than
2
Tony
years,
Romo
I think Tony Romo's still been pretty good. Like, he's just been off injured. The issues that he have come from those injuries, which of course is...
Let's not forget the fumble, man.
Rose.
Let's not forget the fumble.
Yeah.
Romo's not all that's cracked up to be, all right?
Yeah.
Anyway, with all that said, Tony Romo is still a legitimate, really good NFL quarterback, gonna be missed, and it's going to be hard to replace a guy like that as far as like just because that's a known commodity and you're going to get this and that from him, and now you're going to be looking to a more inexperienced rookie to come in and take the reins, which like you said, we'll get into in a little bit. Dallas has suffered a bit of a blow. They certainly didn't want to have to encounter this early on, but we'll see how they fill that void and carry on with the rest of the season. The regular season's coming up quick, man, like you said.
Yeah, 10 days.
And another injury we wanted to get to, nothing else too huge going on, but the other big one that did go down. Ben Watson, former Patriots and Browns tight end, currently playing with the Ravens. He tore his Achilles in his preseason game the other day, so it's going to be a huge loss. I will say that it's really unfortunate because do you remember Dennis Pitta, who is a really highly touted tight end for the Ravens?
Yeah, is he also hurt?
He suffered a big injury last year and the year before as their tight end, so now they've suffered 2 huge tight end injuries that have cost the tight end the entire season. That's just bad luck for the Baltimore Ravens,
and
like a couple years in a row.
These have been guys who have been seen. I actually, Benjamin Watson may be more of a pass-blocking tight end, but Pitta was seen as one of those, he could be one of those new age tight ends, like a good receiving tight end. And he showed glimpses of it, but he's been hurt so often that it hasn't been able to fully come out, I guess you could say.
Yeah, no. Okay, we're going to jump into some headlines now and what's been going on. So, Joey Bosa.
Yes, oh man.
What in the world is going on with Joey Bosa?
The San Diego Chargers are stupid. Are just so stupid. They're the laughingstock of the NFL. From, if you believe rumors that you've heard over on Twitter and just past stories, they've always had issues signing first. You saw that press release they released, right? They had the press release where they put out like, oh, we gave him the highest guaranteed money of any player in the last 2 drafts. You go through those all 3 lines that they gave, it's like, yeah, the last 2, it's a scaling system. Of course, you're going to have less money in the last 2 years that you're going to have this year from the 3rd pick overall. Like, you're not really saying anything that's actually saying anything. You're just being the stupid San Diego Chargers.
Yeah. It's unfortunate because you'd hate to have an actual pro sports franchise handle their business like that, where they have to throw everything out in the open like that and try to feel like they have to defend themselves. The fact that they feel like they have to do that is a bit pathetic. At the same time, in all fairness, Bosa hasn't exactly been the most cordial guy in the world. I'm still on his side. He still is in the right here, where he needs to get. It's more the Chargers' fault the contract hasn't been signed, but like most pro sports athletes, they get a little bit of that kind of ego thing going, and they you can handle it a little more polite way. I think.
Politely I could say yes, but I don't think. He's asking for something that's he deserves.
I'm not saying he's over asking for anything. I'm just saying
the way he goes about it,
he handles it. It's been a little bit smug, but I mean it's not a deal breaker. Or anything.
Yeah. Well, you're dealing with big time organizations, big time money in the NFL business. I feel he's just putting up a front to really drive up his, I don't know what you want to say, drive up his price, but
and
get his money.
The one thing I did see was his mom came out and said something publicly about defending him, so it was you gotta keep your mom from coming out in the public
whenever we have moms in this situation, i.e. Ryan Lochte, it doesn't work out very well.
Or Draymond Green.
We're really 0 for 3 on moms.
we love you, Mama Green, though. We love you.
Just don't get into the public's eye for sports. It's not working out for you.
Well, Mama Green wasn't anywhere to be found with that Snapchat fiasco, but...
yeah, luckily.
So, and it's so we hope to see that Joey Bosa ends up taking the field. He's a very highly talented
Do you think he is?
Guy.
I don't think he is.
I think he is. He's got a lot of upside. I mean, you always have a lot to prove before you even play an NFL regular season game. And there is upside there. It's going to be about how the organization kind of molds him and teaches him, and kind of because there's still stuff you got to learn when you come into the NFL too.
I don't even think he's going to play it down for the San Diego Chargers.
I don't think it's very likely at this point either. I was just saying.
I thought you were saying that the San Diego Chargers as an organization needs to mold him, and I was like.
Well, no, I was going to say if he were to play for the Chargers.
Okay,
it's just whichever team, because, I mean, they currently have his rights. Yeah, so, I mean, whatever team currently has his rights, it's going to be kind of up to them to kind of throw him in there and see what he's got. So, yeah. You're right.
I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't sign this season and just goes right back into the draft next year.
Could be.
Which
we haven't really seen much of that at all.
Is that... Maurice Claret, did he try to do that sort of, or he had a draft situation? I don't think it was the exact same draft situation, but it's not like we haven't seen this from the Chargers even in recent history. The whole reason that Eli Manning wanted to trade away from the Chargers when he got drafted by them, or like basically refused to play for them, is because he knew how the front office acted. He knew that it was going to be tough in negotiations when it really shouldn't be tough for this, especially when you're plugging in money into a slot. Basically, it's not like you're openly negotiating with a player and not having a market. You have a market already set. You have precedent set by every other team in the league that you either get this certain clause in your contract or you get a certain amount of guaranteed money. And for some reason, the Chargers think they don't have to do that. It's like it's incompetence, basically. Incompetence.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's the same with every sport. There's a certain amount of pool money, I'd say, allocated to you to like that you're kind of allowed. You have like a cap within a cap to spend on the certain player you draft. It's not like you can just keep on upping and upping and upping the negotiations to like infinity. It's just that there's a certain sort of threshold that you're not going to pass, and
exactly.
It's certainly like an unwritten rule. Like both sides are going to come to an agreement, and it's not like there's going to be a little bit of negotiation, like a little extra
incentive
money here,
stuff,
maybe
incentive based stuff.
But it's not going to be anything major.
Yeah.
I mean, the big parts of the contract should be agreed upon.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure the base money is absolutely slotted in, maybe a variance of a couple $1 million. So, I mean, that might be a baseball rule that I'm confusing with the NFL, but who knows? But, yeah, it's not hard to negotiate with your rookie if you renegotiate in good faith, I feel like.
We will keep you monitored on that situation, but on to some other news. Tavon Austin, this was actually really recent, was just extended by the Los Angeles Rams.
Yeah, I was wondering who LAR was, and I was like, oh, man.
I'm pretty sure that's going to be is that the what they're going to go by, the moniker or the abbreviation?
I would imagine so. I mean, it makes sense.
Hey, let us know out there if you're watching. Is it LAR? LA Rams? I'm assuming. I don't know what else it would be.
Yeah, I think it would have to be.
So 4 years, $42 million. I kind of like this guy. He's like a little speed threat, kind of slot guy. Reminds me of Wes Welker, Julian Edelman type guy who that you use in the slot. Randall Cobb-esque kind of guy.
He's making number one money for. I don't know if he's put in the number one career stat or the stat line yet.
I agree. This was a solely potential based kind of like an investment almost. Like, let's see if he can actually be what we think he could be.
Like last year he had something, I don't know how many, he had 52 receptions for 473 yards, and then he also had 52 rushes for 434 yards, 5 TDs through the air. I don't know if he had any on the ground or not. But so that's about 950 yards total. That's just, I'd say that's maybe high B tier, like B plus tier, like almost in that range. So if they are paying off potential and they expect him to improve, yeah, I can definitely see with you on your point that it would be a good trade. Or a good trade, good re-signing.
The only reason why I throw in the why I think personally he can really accelerate to that level is because I remember watching him in college, and I remember seeing he put on display what he's capable of, and he's certainly able to reach those new heights that the Rams have kind of set for him with this new deal. So it's possible. My only big problem is they need to have a good, solid quarterback there first who's going to be consistent and can kind of develop a rapport with him. And that's going to be the key to kind of unlocking some further growth and development from Austin.
Yeah, they're going to need him to be better at traditional wide receiver skills, things like route running, because right now he's more of a gimmick player than he is a full-time number one receiver.
Yeah, he's more of that guy that you might like try some double reverses with.
Exactly.
And
exactly.
Some kind of outside the box stuff, like maybe a wildcat.
Not a good route runner. All right, minus route runner.
But he's fast.
Yeah,
he's really fast. So that's something you can't teach, and that's good to have. So you can teach route running to a certain extent, and you can to a certain extent have him practice on his catching and try to improve upon that. So. Yeah. The good news is he's got the speed, and they just want to see if he can just kind of keep on tacking on to that.
They want him to be like a Randall Cobb type player, I would assume. That's what they want him to develop into.
Yeah. Overall, I don't mind this deal. I mean, just based on potential and like the ceiling for him, I like the fact that the Rams are just trying to build up a little bit. They've already got a pretty dang solid defense with Quinn and company over on the other side of the ball, so now they need to start building a better offense, and they got their man. They got Goff in the draft, and now they're going to go for getting some wide receivers locked in around him, maybe getting a nice running back threat, and just kind of moving on from there.
Yeah, we shall see. And as a Niners fan, I hope it fails miserably.
That's terrible.
Speaking of Niners,
hey,
now here's another big controversial one for us to get into.
Let's do it.
Colin Kaepernick,
Let's do it.
and we promise we're not going to get too political with this. We're just going to kind of analyze this from a general perspective. Colin Kaepernick made headlines. I don't know if it was just because he felt like he hadn't been in the headlines for a while and felt like he needed to make a splash, or no one knows what's going through his head. But what we do know is what's out there and what he's been quoted as saying from interviewers. He was spotted in a preseason game not standing up to supposedly respect, quote-unquote, the national anthem that was being performed. And a lot of people, well, it pretty much divided the internet because it brought out a lot of the people who feel the same way as him and a lot of the people who are very traditionalist saying, no, you always got to come up and respect the flag like that. But his reasoning is he just doesn't feel like it's right for him. He was kind of using his First Amendment to not really agree with standing up for and putting his hand over his heart to a country that still allows a lot of oppression and racism and bigotry.
I have one big issue with this, and not with Colin Kaepernick, with Colin Kaepernick's responders, is that a lot of people are saying, you've made all your money in the USA, like this country has given you everything. Why would you turn your back on it like that? My response to that is, when you become rich, why would you start ignoring social issues? Like, that's absolutely the time and place to make a mark. Granted, his situation, his team situation, and the fact that things aren't going so well for him as a player obviously makes it easy to come back at him as him just looking for the spotlight or something like that. But, I mean, we need players across who have these powerful positions in social media, in our culture, to make stances like this. I mean, whether or not he's gets such a bipolar reaction, I don't think that is such a... You fixing that? Thank you. I was wondering why I couldn't hear anything on the right side of my ear. But we need those in society. We need players to stand up and make stands like this to really fix social issues, because this is sadly like a lot of our culture looks at them for, I don't want to say guidance, but just for values and stuff like that. So making a stand, I agree with the stand, even though it's, actually no, even there, I don't have a even though on it. I agree with the message he was putting across. So,
and where I'll really 100% agree with you on what you just said is the fact that in the USA of all countries, I'm not exactly sure. I'm not going to pretend like I know what are the role models and what are the people that you look up to the most in the other countries. But I will say in the USA specifically, this is a country where a lot of the youth and a lot of the younger people, they tend to look more towards athletes and more towards reality TV stars and stuff like that, rather than people of power in politics. So when it comes to forming ideas and forming beliefs and kind of picking a side and where you want to put all of your ideas and stuff towards, a lot of these people look to guys in Kaepernick's status or his kind of position of power, so to speak, in the NFL or just in sports. It seems weird, and some other countries might think that it's a little odd for us to like idolize and look up to these kind of people, but that's just how it is. That's just how it is. These are the kind of guys that go on your cereal box, and then they're
on your TV all day.
They're on your TV endorsing Gatorade or Brita or whatever. So it was a little shot to Steph Curry.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, man.
I was like, damn, John Steph into this.
I'm sorry, Steph. I'm sorry. Brita's just an odd choice. It's okay. Anyway, back on the issue. Colin Kaepernick, where I was getting at is, and I do agree with you and him too. I think as much as people like to think that we're in such a better society and such a better place today, the fact is, I mean, look what happened to Dwayne Wade's cousin the other day that just came in the news. Dwayne Wade's cousin shot while pushing a stroller through Chicago. It's like that kind of stuff just shouldn't be happening anymore. And you could say, oh, it could happen to anybody. Like, a lot of people are just targeted just because there's a lot of sick people out there. But the fact is
It's
that
systemic.
it's still a lot based on color and a lot based on minorities. And it's just, there's still so much ignorance and stuff that we shouldn't be tolerating anymore in this country, whether it be from law enforcement or just whoever. I mean, guys down in the southern states who still have Confederate beliefs, who knows?
Yeah, it's systemic oppression and
Trump supporters.
All for Colin Kaepernick for bringing it to the media's attention, because it needs to be brought up to the media's attention as much as it can. So, good going, Colin Kaepernick. You know, a lot of people are, even Niners fans are saying, like, I don't even want. I've seen people burning his jersey, stuff like that. Just such a bipolar response to this, and it's disheartening. It's disheartening a little bit, but you know, we move on. It's sports. Let's go watch some football.
That's about all politics you're going to get from us. But, yeah, USA. Okay, so Dak Prescott now. This is the name we were going to get to in regards to the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
And Tony Romo's heir to the throne. So what can we say about this guy? He's had a pretty solid preseason as far as rookies go.
I didn't see his week 3 performance, but I know before that he had more touchdowns than he had incompletions. Like he was just killing it out there. He had become the most viral player in the NFL, basically. And so I know that the Dallas Cowboys, they see this performance, and it's gotta like make them feel a little bit better, right? About the injury to Tony Romo. But I mean, he's a dual threat quarterback too, so you might see like a little more from the Dallas Cowboys in terms of just. They're more. They've always been the last 3 or 4 years, because they have such a good offensive line that they can just run the football up your gut and have Tony Romo stay in the pocket and be protected. But if you have this Dak Prescott out there, you know, getting out there on play action plays, stuff like that, he can use his feet to be another weapon for this Dallas Cowboys offense, who's already shaping up to be. I think they're going to be looking pretty good. I think they have options.
Out, bro. What's that, bro?
So I think they're in worse shape, but because of Dak Prescott, it may not be too bad a shape whatsoever. They may be successful in this first couple of weeks until Romo comes back.
I'm totally split here, because on the one side, this guy's looked really good, and he looks like he has a calming sort of effect in the pocket, and he's been a nice little presence for the Cowboys to have, and he's working on building chemistry. It helps that they're going to have a rookie running back in Ezekiel Elliott, and there's more of a young kind of feel. He can build a rapport with Dez Bryant and just kind of click with that offense. So I like that whole side of it, and if he can continue it, that's good. But on the other side, this is all preseason.
Yep.
Everybody, the Detroit Lions went undefeated when they went 0-16. I always got to throw that out there. So it's
no game planning for him. So.
Yeah. The one upside he has is that there's not a lot of tape on him. So there's just a lot of college stuff that people can look at. But college is a different beast in the NFL. So there's not a lot you can really look at in terms of what you're going to be game planning for, what kind of things you're going to look at to nitpick and jump on his weaknesses. He hasn't really shown a whole lot yet, but once he starts to get out on that field and like weeks 1 and 2 and 3 and teams are going to see him, then the other teams later on in the schedule will be able to see what he's doing right and wrong and kind of pick on him with
and
that.
Hopefully maybe by that time Tony Romo comes back, so hopefully
well, he's out a minimum of 6 weeks.
Yeah.
So, and it could be longer. I'd be willing to bet it's going to be
longer,
longer.
yeah.
So it might be like half the season that he's out.
I was talking about maybe the Dallas Cowboys giving some new looks now that they have Dak Prescott behind the center, and actually they've already shown that in the preseason and just in how Prescott's lined up behind center. He's taken 112 snaps so far. 57, so just over half have been from the shotgun formation. Lots of zone read, run pass options plays from that offense. The other half have been under center, but only 12 of those under center have been pass plays. So he's obviously not going to be as comfortable passing from under center as Tony Romo is. You're going to see a lot more zone option plays. So with that offensive line too, and with Ezekiel Elliott, that could be a ton of fun to watch.
That's another big point that you bring up that wasn't mentioned before, is that the fact that the Dallas Cowboys do have a very good offensive line.
I'd say the best in the league.
That's going to help out a rookie quarterback like no one would ever believe.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, I think, just because he's going to bring a new element to that team where there's going to be a lot more mobility at the quarterback position. He's not going to be like the most fast kind of Russell Wilson kind of guy in the world, but it's hard.
He's faster than Tony Romo.
It's hard to not be more mobile than a guy like a Romo or a Brady or something like that. But it's weird. I was going to say, when you see a lot of these younger guys come into the league, you see a lot of this shotgun pistol formation type stuff where they're not directly under center and they like to take the ball from back further a lot more.
That's how college is played now.
Because they're taking that straight from college, and you're seeing it's becoming the new kind of style for a lot of these guys. You wonder if they're going to keep that going further in their career, or if they're going to kind of revert back to the single back I formation.
It depends on whether college head coaches want to keep this change from making their players prepared for the NFL, or they've changed from that train of thought. They're now to I need to beat other college football teams train of thought. And this I need to beat other college football teams train of thought is focused on offenses that are obviously going to beat players who aren't as fast, aren't as skilled, zone read, these shotgun snaps, guys going in motion all the time, unrealistic NFL formation. So I think that the question gets answered on whether NFL coaches are just like college football coaches. You need to get your crap together.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
That's pretty much all we've got for the NFL today, though. So are we ready to jump into some MLB?
I'm trying to think if there's any other NFL headlines I want to talk about. Already talked about Josh Brown a little bit.
It's mainly just going to be...
I got one thing. I touched on it just when we were talking about the Tony Romo injury, and that was the idea that preseason football might be eliminated next year, and they go to live scrimmages with coaches mic'd up or something. That was something I read on Twitter.
I don't think it's going to happen. I think it's...
Ever?
Maybe not ever, but I'm just saying in the relatively near future, just because that's such a traditional kind of thing that's just been going on for so long in the NFL. Because owners make a lot of money
from that, too.
And the fact that, they do pull in quite a bit of money from that. I just don't really see a change like that coming anytime soon. And if anything, they would definitely not eliminate the entire thing. They would take one game off.
I was thinking what they would do is they make the live scrimmages, allow people to go and watch those and have them be lower priced events, because the one reason that this gives me hope that it might happen, because I hate preseason, is that the rumors are saying that the owners are the ones who are talking about this, not the GMs, not the players, not anyone else. It is the owners who are bringing this up and thinking about it. So they're the ones who are having to deal with their books due to those preseason games. So that's a small ray of hope, but realistically, I'm with you. I don't think it'll happen next year.
What I think would happen first, if there's gonna be a measure taken against this, the first thing they would do is make it so there's 2 preseason games. That's because they're not gonna be too inclined to completely change things up to a live practice or something like that. So they're just going to go to 2 preseason games and just kind of see how that plays out. Mm-hmm. And then if something didn't work with that and it just didn't help things out too much, then they would start to kind of finagle around with okay, what are our other options here?
Yeah, and there is the flip side to this. I would say that last year of football that I watched was some of the sloppiest football I've ever seen as a total over the year. There were a lot of bad football teams that last year. Watching Red Zone wasn't as entertaining as it had been 3 or 4 years before, just because the football was worse. And I think that had to do a lot with these practices that have been getting taken away from players, their ability to be in OTAs. Of course, it's better for the players' health, but it also is going to be detrimental to the game, the way the game's played. So... man, I kind of lost my point there. But they're going to keep... Here we go, I found it again. They're going to keep making these rules that are protective of the player, and I feel like at a certain point we're going to see the cliff of this football is just so bad. This is CFL-style football. I'm feeling like we're getting towards that way. Maybe not as bad as it's saying it is, or as I just put it there, but it could get worse. It could get worse.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. But until then, I for the near future, maybe like what, next year or two, or maybe even 3, I don't see any change coming. I think it's just going to be talked about, and the first real sort of change you might see would be like 2020.
4 years, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Just because, especially if when they agree on something, normally that stuff doesn't come into play or come into effect. For even when you agree on it, it takes like a year or two to implement. So, ready to talk some baseball now?
Let's do it.
Okay, we got 2 words here for you.
John C.
Gary Sanchez. This dude is absolutely en fuego.
Trevor Story 2.0.
Yeah, really. So it's weird because in the same year that we've seen Trevor Story have such a historical start to a season where we haven't seen a rookie go on a home run tear like that, now we're seeing Gary Sanchez all of a sudden just absolutely hit out of his mind right now. He's the quickest guy in Major League history to reach 11 home runs. So he's just been phenomenal.
I feel like he's single-handedly keeping these Yankees in the playoff hunt. Like, they would not be where he was if they haven't had this Gabby Sanchez boost that they have got in these past. How long has he been playing? Has it been like 20-something games or so?
Yeah, so get this, 76 at-bats in 20 games, and he's got 32 hits already, hitting .421, .488 on-base percentage, slugging percentage at .947, OPS at 1,400.
Oh, my God.
This dude just killing it. I mean, yeah, unfortunately, he does K a little bit, too. He's got 16 Ks to go with that. Also 10 walks, 11 home runs, 21 RBIs, but...
Yeah, I was calling him Gabby. I meant Gary Sanchez. My bad.
Yeah,
I was wondering.
Gabby Sanchez used to be a player.
Yeah,
too,
I was wondering why I couldn't find him on Google, and I was like, "Oh, I have been searching Gabby Sanchez this entire time." But you know what's weird is how that the AL East has had 2 incredibly hot catchers in the Boston Red Sox. They got Sandy Leon, and he turned it on this season, and now
that was
Gary
really
Sanchez,
out of nowhere, though.
Yeah, he's a terrible hitter. Yeah,
because Sandy Leon was, in a sense, given away from the Washington Nationals. They didn't really want him anymore, and they just gave him to the Red Sox. He wasn't ever seen as a big-time hitter. He was a decent pitch framer and a decent presence behind the dish as far as defense goes, but... then when he started to swing the stick for the Red Sox, I mean, that was just, they really needed that too, because their catching position was just totally out of whack with like Hannigan going on the DL and Swihart needing surgery. And
he's still been good too. He's been keeping it up, and maybe not the 400 pace, but he's still batting above 300. So it's just that AL East just bringing it. That competition is so fierce in the AL East right now that it makes sense.
Nothing like this Gary Sanchez guy though.
Yeah,
I haven't seen anything like this, and like if you see him actually hitting the home runs, and like the guys that are doing the play-by-play and commentary, they're just they can't even believe what they're watching either, because this dude's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been doing so well that the Yankees are actually not that far off the playoff chase. They're only 2.5 back in the wild card and 5.5 back in the AL East. So it's still in the cards for the Yankees. You see, when they lost Nathan Eovaldi for the rest of the season with a severe elbow injury, probably going to lead to another Tommy John. Then they also trade away Aroldis Chapman and Andrew Miller, their 2 best relievers, and they also trade away Carlos Beltran, arguably it was their best hitter. And now Gary Sanchez has since kind of supplanted Brian McCann as the catcher. McCann's still playing a little bit at DH, but... Oh, and they also got rid of A-Rod, too.
Yeah, in the first 3 days after all these moves, they're like, oh, Yankees are finally making a move towards the future. The future is coming in the next couple of years. And the Yankees are like, no, future's right now. Gary Sanchez.
It's weird that you see a team make so many subtractions from where their team once stood, and now they're doing better in a sense, and that's almost like they're now a playoff-worthy team.
It's an advanced version of the Patrick Ewing effect. Like, Patrick Ewing effect is when Patrick Ewing didn't play, the Knicks played better without him, right? It's been like does your star players leaving actually have a better effect on your team?
Yeah.
Well, the Yankees were like, all right, let's just trade 4 of our best players. Well, maybe not 4 of our best players, but 4 of our most well-known players. See if we can Patrick Ewing ourselves into the playoffs.
Or like Rajon Rondo, too, back when he was playing with the Kings. Like, even though he was
Yeah.
like that triple-double machine, technically with the plus and minus, the Kings were actually better off when
Yeah.
he was not playing. So.
Exactly. We figured it out.
Sometimes like what you see can kind of be an illusion and just kind of be a mind trick, you know.
Yeah. What's that? Now you see me too. There's a liner for you. Pay us.
All right, so Gary Sanchez, stay hot, my friend. Also, staying in the AL East. Well, this is like all AL East headlines, really. Mookie for MVP. Okay, Mookie Betts. This dude, I feel like, has been in the shadows for way too long. This guy is freaking good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good way of putting it.
The Red Sox had to essentially just take this guy and move him from the leadoff spot to the cleanup spot because he was driving in too many runs.
Yeah. That'll happen when you're a really, really, really good player.
Yeah, so...
And he's only 23, so he's younger than me. It's depressing. What am I doing with my life?
This guy, he's so...
5'9", 180.
Yeah.
He is me!
Man, you are one pathetic loser.
He's not the tallest guy in the world. He's kind of like that guy you can look up to, like a guy that can be a role model for the people who aren't like 6'4", and like he's just kind of that guy you can be
Him
like,
and
hey,
Jose Altuve.
I can do that. This guy, and actually, I just had to throw this out there too, just because he'd probably appreciate it. He's also a very talented bowler. He was on the World Series of Bowling. I'm not kidding.
I was wondering why I typed in his name, and the second thing came up there was Mookie Betts bowling, and I was like, why is it like a video of him?
He's arguably one of like the top 100 bowlers, or like that you could see, because he was in the World Series of Bowling, and he loves to bowl.
So you can watch him daily on ESPN, or not daily, but when they have Wednesday night football, or Wednesday night baseball, Sunday night baseball. Then you can also watch him Sunday during the day on ESPN when they're showing bowling.
Yeah.
Damn, he's hogging up all that MLB or that ESPN highlight.
But
spotlight.
what a season for this cat right now. A 920 OPS, 320 batting average. Also pairing that with almost 30 home runs now, 35 walks on the season. But he's also got 94 RBIs, and he scored 100 runs on the season. So this guy's just doing it all.
Yeah,
and he's a hell of a defender too. He steals bases for you too. So.
All of it coming from his slugging percentage. I think the one knock is maybe he doesn't take enough walks, but I mean, when you're doing literally everything else as well as he's doing it, it's like, oh, okay, he's not taking walks. He's just crushing the ball every single time he comes to the plate. So he's got a 359 OBP and a 561 slugging percentage for a 920 OPS. Like, that's, kill him.
Didn't think you'd ever see a guy that's standing at 5'9", like his stature, that was being the protection for Big Papi in that lineup. But
yeah, and he's been good since he's gotten into the league. 2014, he had a 291 batting average. 2015, 291 batting average, and now he's 320. And it's like, if that's his baseline, this guy could be a GOAT maybe.
Yeah, he definitely has that Willie Mays-esque kind of feel to him. He's not going to be quite as powerful as Willie Mays, but as far as like the all-around talent goes, he's kind of sniffing that status right now. If you were to do a few more years of this kind of production, he's making his way towards that class.
Exactly, yeah. I feel that 100%.
And then the other thing we got to touch on here from the AL East, the Baltimore Orioles, while they're still pretty close, they have definitely been flailing of late. So we all know about this just ridiculous power lineup that they trot out there, where guys 1 through 9 can take you deep at any point, from Adam Jones to Chris Davis to the major league leading home run guy and Mark Trumbo, Jonathan Scope, Matt Wieters, just like on and on, just from top to bottom. But the pitching has been letting them down lately. Not. And honestly, I mean, we joked around about this at the deadline when they acquired Wade Miley, who improved the team's rotation by like 0.2. I mean,
they made some more moves just now, literally within the last hour.
They did now.
Yeah. Signing Tommy Hunter. Basically Wade Miley again.
This whole deal with the Baltimore Orioles, they just haven't had the solid pitching all year. I mean, Chris Tillman's been their best pitcher, which he's been nice this year. He's not a staff ace, though. And they have been relying on him as a staff ace. And then they go get Wade Miley, who's very mediocre at best. And then they've just got guys like Kevin Gausman and Dylan Bundy and all these unproven guys in their rotation. You knew it was bound to doom them eventually.
We said the entire season, like, their hitting's great, but their pitching will eventually catch up to them. Their pitching's catching up to them right now. And it's not like this Tommy Hunter's going to be some big name. I mean, he had 3 off-season core, like, ab muscle surgeries. He's been rehabbing with the Indians for the past, like, month and a half now. Or maybe not he's been back with the Indians. He has a 3.74 ERA. By no means have they been able to pick up the pitching help they need. So I don't know if who do they have coming up on their schedule.
So they're going to be actually having a really key series against the Blue Jays, where they're going to be hosting them in Camden Yards. What I was just going to throw out there, though, is this is a very terrible stat to point out. In the past 2 weeks, there's been 4 occasions where their pitching staff has allowed 12 or more runs. 4 different occasions, including the last 2 days against the Yankees and the hot-hitting Gary Sanchez.
Oh, man, Buck Showalter must be going insane in that dugout.
Yeah.
God, that's terrible, terrible, terrible. And, I mean, yeah, you hope your hitting can save you when you have that good of a lineup, but when you're giving up 12 runs.
Their game plan is they're just like, well, we can outslug you right now, but it's going to be really tough to reach that sort of playing status every day, just because that's a lot of runs you need to make up for when your pitching staff is going out there and just not getting the job done.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're going to get on to some injury updates now. So we've got some key injury updates coming up. We're mainly going to focus on the actual contenders here. From 2 teams in particular have been bitten hard by the injury bug lately. With the Cardinals, we'll talk about first, losing Matt Holliday to a broken thumb. Already had Aledmus Diaz, their star rookie shortstop, go down with a broken thumb. Matt Holliday joins the broken thumb club. So they're both on the shelf for a little while. And then they lose a pair of pretty decent pitchers as well, in Trevor Rosenthal and Michael Wacha to shoulder inflammation, both of them. So all 4 of those guys now sit on the shelf, and those are all big pieces to that team contending.
Yeah, you look at the NL Central. You have also are the Pirates still in the race, or they've stored?
I mean, let's face it, the Cubs are running away with the Central.
So it's
mainly a wild card thing.
So in the battle for the wild card, there's 5 or 6 other teams. Losing 3 guys like this late in a season, oh man, that could be the death bell ringing for the St. Louis Cardinals. I don't really know what their situation is in terms of roster or depth, but these are big names for them. And maybe Matt Holliday's a little bit over the hill in terms of age, but he's still one of their big name players. Walk is a good arm, so that's a lot of manpower losing late in the season.
Yeah, and then we head out west, which I'm sure this will be music to your ears, where the Dodgers have been absolutely slammed with pitching. So not only was Clayton Kershaw, has he been on the shelf for quite a while, but they lose Scott Kazmir, Brandon McCarthy, and Brett Anderson all back on the DL. And I don't even think it's worth throwing out there, but Hyunjin Ryu, who's only made 1 start on the year, he found himself back there as well. It's not like they were counting on much from him anyway, but so they've got a whole rotation on the DL right now.
Yep.
And an entire rotation, which is arguably the top 5 guys they want to trot out there. And they're just throwing out a bunch of Bud Norrises and Ross Stripling and all these guys that are just total glue pieces right now and trying to stay afloat.
Timing couldn't have been worse, obviously, this late in the season, but it also looks like the Giants might start winning some games again, which is something they haven't done since the All-Star game. So losing this type of rotation power, or any of their rotation power. They've lost so many guys in the rotation that it's just they've thrown out 15 different names probably to start games for them this season at least. So good. That's all I had to say. That's my analysis.
But I will say, to be fair, do you know who did just emerge for the Dodgers for the first time this season?
Rich Hill.
Rich Hill did have quite a good start against you guys the other day. So
I know. It's 2
games.
They'll
have him to lean on, and then they're hoping that Kershaw will make his way back sometime in September.
Did he hit anybody, Rich Hill?
I don't believe he did.
All right,
no.
Good. Even though I want it so badly, as long as he's not pitching against the Giants, he needs to be in every batter possible.
Okay, so the Miami Marlins now, they were really hoping to go for it this year. They had that whole fiasco going with Colin Array getting injured as soon as he came over in the trade, and they traded him back, but they did get Andrew Cashner. They got Fernando Rodney. They were trying to go for it, but Giancarlo Stanton suffers a huge groin strain, pretty severe one, that was supposed to keep him out for the rest of the year. He says he's going to try to make his way back, but it's just not looking too likely right now. So it's a big loss for the Marlins. Obviously, their big power threat in the middle of the lineup. They were already missing Justin Bour, their big powerful first baseman as well.
I think his return, if he says he might want to return, I think that he's going to have to see he's going to be waiting to see how the team performs, because they're still in this race. They're only a game and a half out, and you still look at the other teams that are in it. St. Louis, they just lost a bunch of guys too. Pittsburgh, they may benefit from this. Mets, they may benefit a little bit. Both those teams are on 3-game winning streaks. But if Miami can stay within 2 or 3 games, maybe Giancarlo Stanton thinks maybe at the end there, maybe I can have an impact. It might even have to be a game or 2 at that point late in the season. So.
The second wild card spot is totally up for grabs right now, because I think you're looking at the Nationals, Cubs, and then either the Giants or Dodgers pulling out the West, but then the other of the Giants or Dodgers will mostly take that first wild card, and then the second one is just kind of, I mean, it's Cardinals maybe. I don't think the Mets are really doing well enough to
they're on a 3-game winning streak, so
it's possible.
Yeah.
But
they put a little bit together. They're facing Philly right now. Is basically why that's happening. But.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of teams that are doing so well other than like those division leaders. There's a lot of parity out there.
Yeah, 4-team race basically, or no, 5-team race I guess, past the division leaders, and 3 of those teams just lost a lot of guys, so it'll be interesting to see what happens in these last 3 weeks.
One of those division leaders did just lose a key contributor too, and the Nationals lost Steven Strasburg to some elbow soreness. Good news is at first it doesn't seem like too bad of an injury, but they need to do their tests. They need to make sure that he's doing all right, but that would be a huge blow to that staff just because this is a year where they're really gunning for it. Harper's having a down year. They really need all hands on deck. So Strasburg missing any more than 15 days would really suck.
Yeah, centerpiece to the Washington rotation and centerpiece to my fantasy team rotation. This is killer. So my pitching has gone to crap these last 2 weeks.
Eric needs you, Steven. Come on. Rehab, get better. We need you back.
Steven, I've averaged about a 9.5 ERA these last 2 weeks, all right? Like that team should be taken out back and shot, all right? I need you back. I need you back. All right, personal message to him sent.
And then in the AL East now, we'll make our way back there. Lots of AL East stuff to talk about today. They're so interesting over there. Chris Tillman, we mentioned him before.
Oh, guess who else is on my fantasy squad?
He hits the DL as well. Shoulder bursitis for him, so it's a pick. He's their only really relevant pitcher on that team, which is going to be a huge blow.
Yeah.
If he misses any more than just the minimum amount of time, so they're going to need him if they want to make a playoff push. He's going to be out for a little while. And the recent rookie that was just promoted straight from Double-A to the Red Sox, who has quite a high ceiling, there was lots of expectations on him, Andrew Benintendi. He was actually doing pretty well for the Red Sox while he was up. He's now out with a knee sprain, so he's going to be out for a minimum of 15 days as well. So that's going to be a little bit of a blow, but I think if any kind of offense can overcome that, it's the Boston offense, because they still got Xander Bogaerts, Mookie Betts, David Ortiz, Dustin Pedroia, who's been absolutely on fire right now. Yeah. Got to mention Dustin Pedroia real quick, too, where he came 1 hit short of tying the Major League record of most hits in consecutive at-bats. The record is 12, and he got to 11. He was 1 hit away from doing it, but he still joined a very rare set of company right there where I don't think more than 5 guys have ever even achieved 11.
Are you talking about MLB The Show cover guys? Is that the lead company he's joining?
Probably, yeah. But yeah, he's really good. I feel like in the recent years, he's kind of gone back away from the national attention. Guys really aren't paying as much attention to him, but he's hitting just as well as anybody on that team right now. He's sitting at about a 320 batting average, and he's just absolutely stroking it. So And that they moved him to the leadoff spot since Mookie moved down to the 4 spot. So that's a really dangerous top of the lineup where you've got Pedroia, Bogarts, Ortiz, and Betts just bang, bang, bang all in a row.
Scary. I mean, the only other team that I could have seen taking that injury quite as well as the Boston Red Sox is going to be the Baltimore Orioles lineup.
Yeah,
those are 2 powerhouses. But yeah, so I feel like Boston's just going to be like, oh, let's just hit home runs with all other 8 of our guys. It's okay. We're cool.
Okay, so now we're going to move on to some transactions that went down recently. Trades, releasings, who knows what we're going to get into here.
This first deal.
So, this one actually caused quite a bit of a riff in the LA clubhouse, to be honest. So,
they wept together, man.
The Philadelphia Phillies traded Carlos Ruiz to the Los Angeles Dodgers for A.J. Ellis, a minor leaguer, and a player to be named later. So this was basically boiled down to a swap of catchers and then a couple other minor leaguers involved. But the idea here is A.J. Ellis is an offensive just nuisance. He doesn't provide anything offensively. And the only value he really held to the team, but still is kind of why he caused the riff, is he was Clayton Kershaw's personal catcher. And he had been on the team for almost a decade, and there was just a lot of chemistry that was there and a lot of familiarity with him and the pitchers, and just he was a nice veteran presence in that clubhouse. But the Dodgers made the business decision, went out and got a guy who's actually still hitting. He's older. Carlos Ruiz is still older. Carlos Ruiz was one of the 2 guys left on that Phillies team from their World Series. That was almost a decade ago, and Ryan Howard's the only other guy now that's left.
Wow.
Weird to think about.
He's upper 30s now, maybe
37. Carlos Ruiz.
I was going to say he might be even touching 40 soon. But yeah, A.J. Ellis. So the line there was that after A.J. Ellis got cut, him and Clayton Kershaw wept together. That was became very viral and very much laughed at.
But you don't say that.
It does suck that they've been together for so long. It just seems like a weird thing to admit to a national media. I don't know. I have too much bias into this to objectively analyze this trade. Carlos Ruiz is going to make them a better team.
He is.
Then he's going to get hurt. All right.
Hey, we're not going to wish injury.
Well, it's gonna be a very painless injury. Like he's gonna get like a toothache that just becomes oh, that's painful.
Yeah.
Well.
Anyways, yeah. Okay, so yeah, Carlos Ruiz, he's gonna be a nice little offensive pairing with Yasmani Grandal behind the plate there. So, and he's just he's also a veteran presence, and he knows how to catch. He knows how to come in there and handle a pitching staff. So, Dodgers beef up a little bit there after the waiver deadline. Another catcher moving teams. This kind of flew under the radar, which it's not going to be a huge deal, mainly because Russell Martin's still going to be the main catcher there in Toronto. But Deandre Navarro heads back to Toronto after spending a little time there recently, but he did sign with the White Sox this year. White Sox trade him back to the Toronto Blue Jays for a minor leaguer, so catching depth there, I think that's going to spell the end of Josh Tolle.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking that was, because Russell Martin's been on fire since Harambe's passed away, so I don't see. I mean, maybe it's just. I'm assuming that Toronto knows that streak's not going to go on forever. He's going to cool off eventually, and Deandre Navarro will be a good depth player to take some of at bats when he does cool down. So good trade by Toronto. They're shoring up for their AL East run as well. So it's really.
Well, what's interesting here is the fact that Josh Tolle's probably going to be the casualty here, but the reason why Josh Tolle was on the roster is because he was R.A. Dickey's personal catcher, the knuckleballer.
Wow.
So what becomes the case then when now you bring in Deandre Navarro and then you have Russell Martin as the other catcher? Are either of those guys entirely comfortable catching a knuckleballer? Does this mean that Dickey's not going to be on the playoff rotation? What does it mean? Because they do have a six-man rotation.
Yeah, I would assume Dickey doesn't make onto that. Because they haven't moved Aaron Sanchez to or that's been the big move that people have been clamoring for.
Well, no, they did move Aaron Sanchez. They moved him down to rookie ball to skip a start or two, and then I think he might come back up. Okay. And maybe when he comes back up, he might head to the bullpen. I think
they want to put him in the bullpen, and they've been keeping him. I thought that was the whole reason they went to 6-man, because they wanted to keep him in the rotation, keep that development.
Yeah.
So I see R.A. Dickey being one of the casualties of a once they cut that down to 3 or 4 men, however they want to do it. But yeah, I mean, it is another move. Luckily, it's not AJ Ellis catching for the greatest catcher of all time or pitcher of all time, or one of them. It's for R.A. Dickey, so it's quite a different in terms of context, I guess you can put it.
Yeah, and Navarro's had a bit of a down year, so I think the Blue Jays are kind of hoping that he beefs it up a little bit and comes back to his old stomping grounds and finds that chemistry again.
Yeah.
Other small moves, Jeff Francoeur heads to the Miami Marlins. So I guess that's their replacement now for Giancarlo Stanton. It's going to be Jeff Francoeur.
Good replacement.
He's decent. He's a nice fourth guy, I think. He's not going to be a guy who necessarily is going to be a reliable starter every day. He's a good lefty masher, but he's got a decent track record at least. That's not too significant, though. Oakland was actually involved in another trade here where it's now going to be Mark Sipchinski taking his talents elsewhere to the Washington Nationals, actually. And Washington is going to acquire a lefty that they sorely need in the bullpen. Every team always going to need some lefties coming out of the bullpen, so that's always going to be a hot commodity on the market. Sipchinski passed through waivers, so he's going to make his way over to Washington, just a minor leaguer heading back to Oakland for that.
Jeff Francoeur, that's Miami's big move to get a big player, bring him over. 10 years ago would have been a great move.
He was really, really highly touted.
Yeah, I was going to say hyped up.
Yeah, at one point.
The Golden Boy. What team was he? Supposed to be the Golden? Was it
Braves?
It was the Braves. Okay, yeah, it was the Braves. He's the Golden Boy for.
Or St. Louis. I think it was St. Louis. It was one of those teams back in the day. But a bit of a surprising one, but I guess not so much when you really look into it. Josh Hamilton was released from the Texas Rangers, but mainly to sign Carlos Gomez.
Yeah.
Carlos Gomez was released from the Houston Astros, had a miserable season over there in Houston, just absolutely did not produce, was struggling around that 200 Mendoza line all year, and just finally Houston had enough. They have enough young guys on that team where they don't really need to have him occupy a spot anymore, and he was released. He's headed over to Texas, and he hit a home run in his first at bat.
Yeah, so I was going to say Texas hoping that he can return to form. It looks like he's already starting to return to form. So Josh Hamilton, I mean, a couple weeks ago I was wondering if he was still in the league or not. So this move makes complete sense to me. It's Texas just if they can get a good Carlos Gomez, they're pretty much set for a really good playoff run. Very, very deep playoff run.
Yeah, they're already loaded, and they got Carlos Beltran at the deadline. They got Jeremy Jeffress, and they brought in a ton of talent to come help, and Lucroy. So I think they're pretty stocked. But the one thing that I might be a little bit concerned with them about is pitching. As far as Derek Holland goes, you're not sure if he's going to be able to stay healthy. Yu Darvish. Cole Hamels is the one guy I would hang your hat on. It's like the guy you can depend on in the postseason. But other than that, it's a lot of question marks. AJ Griffin, a lot of guys you just don't know for sure are going to be able to be consistent for you. But I think it's time we move into some Bay Area ball now.
Let's do it.
So, it's been pretty bad. I mean,
I was going to let you take that opener on the situation.
It's been pretty bad. Not a whole lot to write home about for the A's or the Giants. So we'll start off over in Oakland. Well, you know what? Well, we've been starting off in Oakland the last couple podcasts. Let's start off over in San Francisco this week. It's the second half has just been a struggle still. I don't know why, just because that team was clicking on so many cylinders in the first half.
We stopped hitting with runners in scoring position. Basically,
it's timely hitting, like we talked about before.
We've talked about this the entire season. That has been the Giants' strength, and it has turned into a complete weakness the second half.
Yeah,
and that's, I think, pitching's been not up to par as well. It's dropped a little bit, but I think the batting has taken such a larger portion of this crap play that we have seen. And thank you, Matt Moore, for giving us something. For giving us, I mean, it failed, but thank you for giving us something.
Yeah, I was gonna say that just kind of, I think. That's kind of a metaphor for the entire second half, really, isn't it? Just because, you were so close to it, and then it got Corey Seager just took it away from you. By the way, Corey Seager is that how this season's
going to end up?
Corey Seager is a total stud, by the way. I just had to throw that out there.
Both Seager brothers, they're having some of the best like brother like tandem.
I feel so bad for Kyle though, because Corey comes in here now and he just totally steals all the spotlight because he's in LA.
Yeah.
He's better.
Yeah.
He's just better at everything,
Yeah.
and
Kyle's been like slowly working his way up over in Seattle, like getting better and better, and like he's just like, oh come on, you just got here. Are you kidding me? Like come on.
Yeah. But so with this whole deal with Matt Moore and everything, it was really cool to see how Matt Moore was able to give the Giants fans it was really cool to see the entire fan base, even though it was down in LA where they're doing it, you still saw a lot of people in the crowd were really getting into the game. So you got to respect that. Yeah. When you're seeing history made, doesn't matter where you are, it's really cool. Like everybody's getting like, oh, we know what's happening. It's like, and they're all getting their cameras out. Like, well, we could be a part of history right here. So I really liked that because I was watching the game and it was really cool to see.
133 pitches too. He got deep into.
He got deep. Yeah, he got really really deep, and it kind of reminds you of Tim Lincecum a little bit back when when he almost threw 150. So that was crazy when he did that. So it was really cool to see though, like Matt Moore, a new guy, and I was listening to Kuiper and Kruko and Miller and those guys. They were saying that was kind of his like official welcoming into San Francisco, where it's like he was finally, that was like his, I don't know what you'd call it, like acceptance, or it's like all the fans see the potential with this kid, and now they're all on board with him.
The media is trying to position this as the turning point, hopefully, for the Giants getting into this September. If they can turn it around, if they can turn around on this performance, this 8 2/3 of beautiful baseball from Matt Moore, if they can turn it around, just start hitting when there's a runner on base, maybe. Yeah. Just win a couple games, turn it around, and get right back. We're only 2 games out, and we're a game and a half in the wild card up on the second spot. So, I mean, if we continue the way to play we are, we could fall out of that spot. I'd say we are going to fall out of the spot if we play we are. So we need to turn it around now. Right now. And we just lost to Atlanta yesterday, so I'm just like,
oh no! We suck again!
Come on, guys. What is going on?
But hey, there's still plenty of stuff to. We'll get one more thing out of the way. So Matt Cain and Jake Peavy, but you know what?
Okay.
I'm not really. I don't think Giants fans are really going to be too snake bitten by that, to be honest. So Matt Cain and Jake Peavy both hit the DL. Cain's got more back issues. Peavy had some issues with his arm.
We'll have that Alberto Suarez guy to fill his spots. I mean, I feel like it's not too.
But then again, Suarez didn't have a fantastic start yesterday.
But then again, would I expect Peavy to have a fantastic start in that position
true,
either?
Very true. I really hope next year they try to give one of those younger guys a good crack at the rotation, like a Tyler Beede or a Kyle Crick or somebody like that. But until then, for now, it's just going to be relying on the big four. It's going to be, you need to get some consistent outings out of Samardzija. Matt Moore hopefully has turned the corner and he's doing well. And then you've got 2 of the most consistent guys in the league in Bumgarner and Cueto atop the rotation. So, but we will look at the bright side here. So speaking of pitching, there's 2 guys in the bullpen who have really been holding their weight down. A guy that got a lot of flack at first, Hunter Strickland. Many of you may remember him from getting bombed off of Bryce Harper twice.
Over and over again.
But he's since kind of settled in. I mean, those 2 guys have been absolutely killing it in the bullpen right now for the Giants. So it's nice to have some guys you can rely on. They may not be the most high leverage situations. Santiago Casilla has been blowing quite a few of those, but
yeah, that's been pretty bad. It's he's gotten over his big issue, which was just how do I put it? Just threw that fastball as fast as he could right down the middle over and over again.
Yeah, that was the big problem. Is these guys that have a lot of heat, they tend to think they can just get away with totally just leaving it out there. And it's like, all right, here's my fastball, go hit it. Well, a lot of guys are like, well, I'm hitting it.
Yeah. In the MLB, it doesn't work as well. It's like we were talking about that in the situation with football, how in college they're putting in game plans that don't work in the NFL. In minor leagues, they're putting in game plans that aren't going to work in the MLB. So you got to evolve as a player once you get up to that level, learn how to hit your spots, even if you hit 98, 99, and then you'll be able to succeed.
And yeah, so to highlight what these guys have been on lately, their last 15 or so appearances, 0.64 ERA for Derek Law and a 1.35 ERA for Hunter Strickland. And that's in about 14 or 13 innings apiece. They're also sitting at a .64 whip for Law, and Strickland sitting at .83. Batting average against both under 200. So they've been on fire lately.
Yeah. And, we talked about it earlier in the season. We needed to see where that performance was going to come from because we have guys who are so far into aging process. Romo's starting to get there. Casilla, we've seen him blown up several times the last 2 months. Like you mentioned, Javier Lopez, I don't even know.
He's been struggling. It's been an off year for the older guys, really, like Casilla and like you said, like with Lopez, and then also with Will Smith, the guy that they acquired at the deadline, who's supposed to be a nice lefty presence in that bullpen. He's been really struggling too. Yeah. So it's nice to have a couple of guys who are at least rolling along, and you can depend on maybe later in the game.
And there's at least one guy who's been hitting for the Giants.
Buster Posey's been slowly kind of turning it up more and more, and it's maybe he smells the postseason coming.
He's not hitting any home runs. He's just like, you know what, screw home runs. I'm just going to be solid.
He exemplifies the Giants. I mean, the Giants don't hit home runs as a team. I mean, they really don't. A high home run total for them right now is like Brandon Crawford's 12.
Yeah, his last.
I mean, they don't have a whole lot of home runs between any of them.
His last month, he's batted .327, 16 RBIs, 397 OBP, and a .402 slugging percentage. So he's getting on base. Slugging percentage, he's knocking in a lot of singles and doubles, and he's being clutch with his hitting. He's the only player who's been clutch with his hitting, I guess you could say. Everyone else has just been, not hitting the ball. He's had the last 3 games. He's gotten 2 hits in all of his last 3 games. I mean, he is the hottest player on the Giants right now, without a doubt.
Yeah, in the last week, he's been hitting a touch under 500. So, I mean, he's not showing any signs of slowing down. And when you've got that coming from the same guy who's handling your pitching staff better than almost anybody in the league does, I mean, that's what you want out of an MVP candidate right there, and a guy to lead your team to the promised land. So it's good signs there. I mean, you've got Bumgarner and Cueto who are atop that rotation still. Always nice to depend on those guys. Posey's heating up. You've got some pretty decent relievers down there. If you can get guys like Crawford and Pence and some of those guys on the right track, things could all come together. The most important month of the season is September.
Yes.
Let's all remember that. Yes. The most important month, and that hasn't started yet. So as long as you have a really hot month of September, anything's possible.
And the Giants have been doing that when they recently, in recent years. This 2010, they've been having some hot Septembers.
Oh yeah. For sure. Yeah. And it's going to depend on scheduling too. So we'll look at the upcoming schedule for them. 2 relatively easy opponents. Arizona's going to be not too hard, I think. But they've even been a little bit hot on offense. But pitching-wise, Arizona's a complete mess. So that it should be pretty easy for the Giants' offense there. But then they're going to have a huge 4-game set in Chicago against the Cubs. That's going to be massive. It's going to determine seeding potentially. It's going to determine just whether or not the Giants can bounce back and get ahead of the Dodgers. There's a lot on the line in that series.
It's a sandwich of 2 of the best pieces of bread you could possibly have in Arizona and Colorado, and just some of the dirtiest meat, the dirtiest and just nastiest meat right there in the middle with the Chicago Cubs. It's going to be scary getting through that meat.
Yeah, I don't know. It's even not that set in stone with the Colorado Rockies, too, because you're heading into their territory in Coors Field, and you've got a hot-hitting Charlie Blackmon's been on one lately. That dude, for the leadoff hitter for the Rockies, has been an absolute tear. Arenado's finding a stroke again. Carlos Gonzalez. I mean, that's a dangerous lineup still, even though they don't have Trevor Story. DJ LeMahieu's even been having a fantastic season.
He's been a great player this year.
So that's a hot lineup to face over in Colorado. It's just with Colorado and Arizona, your offense needs to show up, just because those are not great pitching teams. So the Giants need to get a little bit more help from their offense there, and I think they should be good to go. But now we're going to move over to the green and gold, the A's. It's been no different. Giants
exactly the same.
Giants 4-9 in the last 2 weeks. The A's 4-8 in the last 2 weeks. So, yeah,
8-17 combined.
It's not been fun, but I mean, the A's, we're not expecting a whole lot, to be honest. I mean, we have an entire roster on the disabled list right now, essentially. So it's just been a real struggle lately. Phegley and Doolittle, 2 guys we've been hoping to have come back before the end of the year. Backup catcher and a pretty solid setup man / closer in Doolittle. Both of them suffer setbacks. Phegley actually had to go back to the hospital because of a severe knee injury that he was suffering. And then Doolittle suffered a setback, and he was really close. He was about to make his way back, but then he started to feel some discomfort again. So setback for him. And also Billy Butler, Jesse Hahn, and Tyler Ladendorf hit the disabled list as well, which leads me into
Why did one of those guys get on the DL?
very interesting subject. So Billy Butler actually got in an altercation with Danny Valencia, and so obviously no one knows exactly what happened, just other than people who were actually there inside the clubhouse.
I've heard a report on.
But what the story is, like, what's coming out from the reporters for the A's and like the beat writers and stuff like that, they're saying what happened is that there was supposedly some sort of cleat, some sort of shoe that Danny Valencia was supposed to be wearing from the equipment guy, something like that. And Butler essentially was a snitch about it. He was a total snitch. And
with
he snitched over...
the equipment manager was right there with Valencia, and he goes and says he's not wearing your shoes or something to that extent. Yeah. And it's just, oh my, first start, Billy Butler. Oh man, now I understand why you guys hate him. Oh my God.
Loud noises!
How could you... Keep going.
You don't do that to your teammates, man. You don't. Those are the guys that you spend half of the year with, more than half of the year with, really, and like on a daily basis, essentially. Those are like your brothers, the guys you build chemistry with, and like, why would you do something like that? Yeah. And a lot of people, this is what I really hate. Okay, for some reason, Danny Valencia has this bad reputation around the league. There's been supposedly some other minor incidents with him in other clubhouses on previous teams, and people give him a lot of flack as a player just because he is not the greatest defensively. His defensive metrics are a lot negative and they're not that great, but he's a solid hitter. He's been hitting around the 300 mark the past couple of years, really dependable there, and he's a nice guy all around. I think it's just, don't do stupid stuff like tattle on him and stuff like that, or else you're going to get popped. That's exactly what I think happened. I think Butler said something he shouldn't have.
There's a little more to the story, too. You want me to...
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so after the equipment manager walked away, Valencia got in his face, and he was like, what are you doing? And he's like... And Butler basically told him, like, I'm going to do whatever I want, and you're not going to do anything about it. And as soon as he said that, one punch from Valencia to the temple, concussion. So... Yeah. Thank you.
Well, yeah. If Butler's saying stuff like that, well, good riddance, buddy.
Yeah.
I've been a heavy proponent of get the Butler the hell out of Oakland train ever since he was signed, really.
And I've been joking about that at your expense the entire season. So but I'm on your side now. Get him off the team.
But I will say this is now, like, hopefully they do what the Nationals didn't do with the Papelbon and Harper thing and get rid of one of... Well, Papelbon was like the obvious guy that you get rid of,
We're getting rid of Harper.
But, I mean, with the A's... They could get rid of either guy or both. I'm hoping they just keep Valencia and cut Butler or trade him, something.
After this, I'd say keep Valencia. If that story's true, keep Valencia. Hell yeah.
We need an enforcer around the clubhouse. We need a guy that's not going to take any crap. It seems like
the entire team is behind him too. Like that's a you get Butler out of there. That's somehow a team bonding experience right there.
Like that'd be less. He can handle all the rookie hazing and like bringing up all the guys like. And let that be a lesson, and you guys, like we're a team, we're a family around here. No snitching. And if snitches get stitches.
If you end up breaking one of our rules, he just points towards a picture of Billy Butler. That's what's gonna happen.
Snitches get concussions is more like it. Yeah. That's what's really gonna be the motto around the A's clubhouse. But so that whole scenario,
I want that painted on like one of the walls in the locker room.
That'd be fantastic.
Just above the lockers, just get concussions across the entire thing.
That honestly, I'm down for that. I'm totally down to have that as the motto for everybody to kind of pay homage to, really, and have to focus on.
SGC, man, SGC. All right. Do we have anything else baseball we want to talk about? Anything else on the A's baseball we want to talk about?
Yeah, so I was going to say we talked about some bright side for the San Francisco Giants. Also,
for the A's.
Now for the A's, it's really only one guy that's really been doing a lot better. So, I mean, there are certain shout-outs you could throw out, like Andrew Triggs and some of these guys have been doing fill-ins like Zach Neal, who aren't typical rotation pieces. They've been doing a pretty decent job of filling out the rotation in light of all the injuries. But as far as like actual real solid production, a guy who has a lot of potential, Ryan Healy has been really hitting well the past week or so. Hitting over 400 in the past week. Driving in a couple runs, got a few doubles to go along with that. He's really starting to find his stroke at the plate. He's a better defender than Valencia and some of those other guys.
That's the third baseman you brought up from the minors? Or?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so he's hopefully going to be the first guy we can really implant over at the hot corner for quite a while since Eric Chavez.
Yeah, I was going to say, Chavy's the last guy. Yeah.
Man, miss those days.
I miss him too, man. I miss him too.
That was my first guy I really looked up to in the major leagues was Eric Chavez. He's one of my favorite players.
Yeah, I went to that was when we first started going to baseball games. He was the guy. Him and Miggy, like back in the day, were the games that we went to. Like, oh man, I miss those days a lot.
So the A's, they're going to be traveling to Houston. They're going to be playing at Minute Maid Park against the Astros, who are very off and on this year, kind of hot or not. So we'll see what happens with that. Then they're going to have a huge series where they're hosting the hot Boston Red Sox.
You're going to get to go see some of that, too.
That'll be interesting. Yeah, I'm going to have a front row seat to that slaughter. And then the Los Angeles Angels will come into town after that. So, you know, if I'm being modest here, let's hope for 4-5 or something like that from those games.
I say a Houston sweep. How many do you have against Boston? 3? You're taking 2 or 3 against Boston, and then you're taking 2 or 3 against Los Angeles. All right, so there's a 7-2 right there for you.
Gonna need to get you checked for a concussion too, Eric. So
yeah, I was just talking to Danny Valencia before I walked inside. I don't remember what our conversation was about, so that might be true.
All right, so now we're gonna be talking some Rio. We're gonna get into recapping Rio. This is going to be the final time we talk about Rio, honestly. So to wrap up the Olympics, just overall, top medalists, it's USA. Yeah, pretty much just like the best of the U.S. Michael Phelps, Katie Ledecky, Simone Biles. What did those guys do, Eric?
They won a lot of gold medals, I think to a tune of 13 gold medals and a total of 16 medals overall.
Wow.
Kill 'em!
Yep.
Yeah, I mean...
They truly dominated the competition, honestly. Nobody was touching Phelps. Nobody was touching Ledecky. Nobody was touching Biles. I mean, they just dominated from start to finish. I mean, yeah, they each took a silver and a bronze. Is that really something you need to knock them for? I mean,
I don't think it's... so you weren't perfect.
Yeah, they weren't absolutely perfect, but oh well, stuff happens.
Yeah. And
it was still domination. So
USA overall just laid it on the other countries.
Yeah. So you look at the top countries overall, no one even got close to the U.S. 46 golds, 37 silver, 38 bronze. It's a total of 121. That nearly doubled second place. So second place, you had Great Britain, 27 gold, 23 silver, 17 bronze for 67 total. And then China with 26 gold, 18 silver, 26 bronze, and 70 total.
So China walking in there with second. That was a bit to be expected. China's usually second in on that thing. So.
Well, I mean, you could argue that the team that has the more
Oh,
golds
you're going by golds? Oh, by the gold list? Okay, I was just going by total list.
Because not only did Great Britain have more golds, they also had more silvers, too. So don't you think that's more impressive than China having way more bronzes?
Yeah, I'll give that to you. I didn't even...
I don't know how they
really... I
don't really know how they do that whole ranking thing.
I think they just do it by total. I don't think they've done it by, like, gold and silver, just because that becomes a little bit more... subjective, but I agree with your subjectiveness in this situation, so it's not really an issue here.
Yeah, that's basically your recap of the
How much
Rio.
did you watch of the Olympics?
You know what was interesting? I watched a little bit of it from, like, there was a little bit of gymnastics. I have a mom and a sister who I have to throw that out there. So we watched a little bit of gymnastics. I don't know a whole lot about gymnastics, but from what I was seeing, apparently
we did good.
We were doing well, yeah. Simone Biles was killing it out there. Allie Raisman and the rest of the squad out there was killing it. I didn't really watch much of the swimming. I mean, what can be said about that, though? I mean, like we said, the two, Phelps and Ledecky, they absolutely killed it over there.
That is correct.
The one thing I wanted to watch but couldn't end up getting around to was watching Usain Bolt continue his dominance over there.
I made sure to check that out on Twitter. That's the stuff I wanted to see. Usain Bolt.
You know what I actually watched a little bit of, what was kind of interesting, was archery. Archery was
Archery is cool, dude.
kind of neat to watch, just because there were some. I think it was North Korea. He was one of the Koreas. Absolutely, just mopped the floor with everybody.
Really?
They have one of the best teams apparently. That's been like in Olympic history. Like they every year trot out one of the better teams, and they just like knock bullseye after bullseye.
Well, that makes sense for North Korea. Archery is at the forefront of their technology, so they're probably obviously going to have someone who's very good at it.
Zing! I like that.
I'll go. Basically, I think I watched some stuff on Twitter. Anything that was 10 seconds long on Twitter. So most of the races. The only real thing I watched on TV, I watched Australia versus. Oh man, I can't even remember. Maybe like Serbia. One of those basketball games, men's basketball games. I guess I saw the highlights of most of the games on YouTube. But I was basically unless it was a very viral, I was not in on it, which we have some viral stuff coming up.
You know what else I watched a little bit of too was the volleyball. And it was weird because we got upset. We got upset in both the squad volleyball, and we were heavy favorites in also Carrie Walsh Jennings and like the pairs volleyball too. We were supposedly heavy favorites in both of those, but we ended up not getting gold in either, and I think we got bronze in both, I want to say.
Did the Brazilians win in the over Kerry Walsh? And I
think they were the ones that got the best of them. But it was weird because normally you don't see a whole lot of upsets in that particular, just because we normally do very well in those sports. So it was interesting to see that.
I saw actually one volleyball thing. I just remembered. It was women's indoor. And have you seen the Scott Sterling video?
I've not.
Oh man, you need to watch the Scott Sterling videos because it's basically a video. I can't even explain it. It's a guy getting hit in the face by a volleyball over and over again, and one of the girls got leveled twice in the head by a volleyball, and it was her best Scott Sterling impersonation, and it didn't work for that squad. Like, they lost, but
gotcha.
If you had gotten that reference, we'd be laughing so hard right now. Let's pause this. Let's pause the podcast. All right. Let's keep going.
I need to catch up with my trends, man.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I've been under a rock lately.
So we have a couple things in non-sporting news you want to get to, or a non-Olympic sport, or I guess Olympic.
Well, there's just other notables from the Olympics we can
before we get
jump
into that.
into.
All right, okay.
So U.S. basketball, men and women, we also have to address that. Men, they win again. It wasn't in the most impressive style. We didn't absolutely mop the floor with every team we faced, like a lot of people thought. But I watched a little bit of it, and, it's difficult because a lot of those guys play against each other all year long, and now they're playing with each other. So it's not the easiest thing in the world to make your enemy your friend all of a sudden. But I think they did a pretty good job. I was really impressed with Durant.
Yeah, he had a good
I'm excited. It's got to get me so excited because Thompson was doing well, too. So I'm excited to see all those guys bring it to the Warriors.
Draymond didn't play a lot.
He did not play a lot. I don't think he was... You know what? His style didn't really fit that Olympic... kind of, because it was basically like what the Thunder. It was like hero ball.
Exactly. Yeah.
It was like whoever's hot was taking the shots. So Thompson was getting hot, Irving was getting hot, and Durant was getting hot. Like Draymond's not. His style wasn't really needed. They needed a guy. They needed like DeAndre Jordan and DeMarcus Cousins under the rim, inhaling all the rebounds, and then they needed a hot scorer. That's really what they needed.
Yeah.
So, I don't mind. I don't mind using mileage off Draymond. It saves him for us, so whatever, big deal. He still gets a medal anyway.
It was interesting. Do you think that because... Okay, so we had USA men's basketball getting a couple close matchups with, say, the Australian team, the Serbian team. They were a little closer than comfortable. Do you think that's because the talent level has risen in these countries at a higher level, or do you think it was because... NBA USA basketball was trying to play that hero ball, and these other teams were playing very, very good team basketball?
I think Krzyzewski's kind of run his course as the USA basketball coach. I'm not going to take too much away from the other countries. I think basketball is always evolving, and there's people getting better and better, and there's different things to learn about the game. And so I'm not going to say that the other countries suck, but I am going to say that US is on another level compared to other countries. So It's kind of like comparing like the Chicago Cubs to a AAA team, in my opinion. It's like the other, you got to give the other team credit, but they're just not in the same real league.
Yeah,
as far as I'm concerned.
It's maybe they're playing that team ball because they have to play that.
It's
team
just
ball.
lack of chemistry. That's what I think it is. If they had chemistry, if that's a team that has played together for a longer amount of time, and they had a coach who was a little more. Krzyzewski, I think, is just kind of he's run his course. I mean, he's been the coach for a long time now, and they maybe need like a Brad Stevens or some young coaching guru to come in there and kind of take over the reins and be the next Krzyzewski who takes over the team for like the next couple decades.
I think they already have that planned, actually, though. I think Popovich is taking it over in 2020.
It doesn't make any sense though, because Popovich is already old as heck too. So. I mean, it would be cool to have Popovich coach it as well, but I want to see that next guy like develop a rapport with those guys. Kerr could be a guy. He could be a guy that I really like Brad Stevens from the Celtics too. I feel like he would be a cool guy to throw in there, and maybe there's another college coach like a Krzyzewski to throw in there. Who knows?
Yeah, I know that Coach K is going to be in NBA 2K17. That was my point was going to be. So that's going to be pretty cool. But yeah, I think it's time to move. It's time to move on to a new see what new systems can do, see what new ideas can do, and get in there and work with Team USA to maximize their efficiency.
We also got to throw in a huge shout out. The U.S. women's basketball team is dominant, absolutely dominant. The least amount of points that they won by in the entire Olympics was 19. I mean, they absolutely destroyed everybody they played. So huge shout out, U.S. women's basketball team. Just no contest, but in any of their games really. So yeah, well played. And so now we'll move on to some other big. We talked about Usain Bolt. Usain Bolt, still the fastest guy in the world.
I love that race he had in that heat before the final where the Canadian was coming up on him and he just kind of turned to him and looked at him and started laughing and then gave the little no, like as he was the Mutombo. Yeah, Usain Bolt's been one of not only a premier athlete, but he's been a premier ambassador of the game, really. He's been like just across the world, he's beloved because he acts so professionally. He's a likable personality. He's as good as the sport. He's the best ever at the sport.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the trifecta of just being awesome in the sports world. So Usain Bolt continues to kill it. Hopefully he can kill it for the rest of the time. Like, just have him run biometrics, like replace his legs with some nanotechnology. Just let him keep going for another 80 years or so. Good to go.
It's gonna suck because this is kind of the end of a little mini era in Olympics, because it's likely that we've seen the last of not only Michael Phelps but also Usain Bolt. So it's gonna be really different seeing the Olympics now, 4 years from now, when those two icons have left their mark on the game now. But it's really been cool to have those guys kind of take over the media and the sporting world and the Olympics, and they've kind of been the face of the Olympics the past several years. So it's been sweet. I mean, Bolt's brought a lot of attention back to his native country, and Phelps has brought some even more attention to the U.S. So I've loved watching it. Like I said, that was the one thing I'm sad that I couldn't watch live this year. I did go back and watch it online, but I wish I could have seen his races live. That would have been really special. But now we're going to get into some other stuff. I just want to throw this in really quick because this made little small waves. So Aly Raisman, one of the U.S. gymnasts who dominated over in Rio, actually was asked out by an Oakland Raider.
Oh, okay.
Did you hear about that?
I did,
yeah. So what
tight
happened?
End.
Yeah. What happened was an Oakland Raiders tight end. He had a friend who I believe is
dating another one of the gymnasts.
Dating a former gymnast, Shawn Johnson. If you Olympic followers out there, you would remember her. She was one of the big time gymnasts from quite a few years back. She's not that old. I mean, it's just like in gymnastics.
Yeah.
I mean, you age out pretty quick. I mean, it's like 14-year-olds who start getting into that stuff.
She just turned 8, so she's done.
So Shawn Johnson is dating or engaged or something with one of the Raider teammates. So he asked Aly Raisman on a double date, and she went for it. So props to the Raiders guy, and props to Aly Raisman for that little love connection there. We'll see if that goes anywhere. But now we're on to the
The juiciest stuff,
The
I guess?
juicy stuff, yeah. If you've been waiting with us for the entire podcast, it's finally here. So, on to Ryan Lochte and Hope Solo.
Listen to this song I just wrote. It's called I Hate You Guys.
First, what the heck happened with Ryan Lochte over in Rio?
So this might take a little while since he tried to explain it about 4 different ways, and I kind of want to give...
Can you explain it all for me?
So let's start from when... Let's start from
Can
when
you channel your inner Ryan Lochte
from the day it started. Yeah, okay, here we go. So they're drunk, they're partying. It's 6 o'clock in the morning, some night in Rio. Okay, they need to use the restroom, and they get to this little. It looks to be like sort of a 7-Eleven sort of a venue, and there's some bathrooms, on the outside of the building, like another door to the outside. But they can't get it open, and it's a little bit frustrating for them, apparently. So they kick it a little, and pictures have shown no damage done. No damage done to the door, okay? You look inside, it was reported that they had done a bunch of damage to, like, the dish, the soap holders, like a bunch of different things. No damage done. No damage whatsoever. There was one thing that happened. A sign, sort of like a... you know how, like, it's a framed sign within the middle, like there's a paper and there's glass around it so it doesn't look bad, right? That got knocked over and fell over, and, like, there was one line across it. Didn't look bad at all. So that's all the damage they did. Doesn't sound like a lot. Doesn't sound like much at all, okay? So they try to leave. The Brazil security stops them before they can get into the cab car, stops the cab car, gets them all to get out of the car. He's like, you guys just broke this. Like, what the hell is going on? So they try to pay him off. They try to pay him off a little bit of money, but the cab driver goes away and they're stuck there. So they're basically stuck there. And then the security drivers also security also, like, while asking for the money, has a gun, like, like, they don't know if it was on his hand or pointed at them. That's kind of up to question right now. So that all happens. They get paid off. They get home. They're fine. They weren't robbed. They still have all their stuff. And then for some reason, Ryan Lochte goes and tells everyone that they were robbed, and that he makes up this story, climaxing with him going, whatever, as a gun's pointed into his face. Brazil says, hey, that's a big lie. They broke it. It seems like both sides have just made the most exaggerated story that they possibly could. And they both end up looking really, really bad because of it. Like, Ryan Lochte, how much did he lose? He lost all of his endorsements, I feel like. Lost 3 or 4 different endorsements.
You know what? I think he kept one. I think there was one stupid brand that I ended up keeping him. I was reading about the other day. I forget what it was, but there was like one desperate somebody kept him, and it was funny because
he's gonna be on Dancing with the Stars, actually.
Yeah, whatever. But apparently there was like something where that's like their slogan in that ad with him, that the one like was like something about second chance or like something like that. So
it still works.
Funny stuff.
Yeah, and it's. He's lost a lot now because of that endorsements. Like, when you look at it, like, I don't think he was getting a main source of income from USA Swimming. His main source of income was probably from those advertisements and like any.
Well, yeah, that's totally
reality stuff.
That's totally
does.
How those guys make their way off, just from endorsements, because it's like it's not like you get paid for getting medals or anything like that either.
Yeah.
Like guys like Phelps and like what I did here, what I want to throw out there real quick, which I respect a lot. Katie Ledecky got thrown a bunch of offers and sponsors, and tons of money was thrown her way, millions of dollars. Probably a lot of Lochte sponsors that were trying to look for a rebound, but she decided to forego all of that, and she's going to go swim in college.
Yeah, okay, that's
and
good.
Because obviously you can't have any of that kind of stuff when you're swimming in college. She said, I want to have a normal college swimming experience. I don't think you're ever going to be normal, Katie, just because of the national attention you have. But good on you for trying to go for that experience. It's really cool because if she continues this dominance, that money will be waiting for her anyway. And in swimming, there's way less of a chance you're going to injure yourself or cause yourself any harm from not being able to compete later.
Yeah. And so to wrap up, Ryan Lochte, for me, I mean, I could get all enraged and be like, this guy is just like, the whole thing, he could have just kept it quiet and it would have been fine. I think he built the story up to build his reputation up because he knew it was the end of his career swimming-wise. He needed more to get into that really reality thing. But this is just pathetic, and I don't want to get too just angry about it, but it's pathetic because you're tarnishing USA's name. While you're at the Olympics just for your own benefit in terms of being in social media over an issue that could have been blown over so easily, but now that it isn't blown over, has some political implications. It's just irresponsible and stupid. So, way to go, Lochte. Way to go. You lost your money. You deserve that. So.
Well, hey, I think you summed it up pretty well. I mean, that was a good take on it. I agree with basically everything that you said. And my thing was it was just weird because Lochte's a total dumb guy. He's an idiot,
like a bro, you know.
He's like that guy you imagine, like that really, like that whoa dude, like kind of surfer guy, where he's like he has no idea what's going on. But so it was weird to believe either him or whoever was handling things down, just because it's so sketchy down there in Rio and Brazil, and a lot of weird stuff going on down there. So it's like you don't know what's gonna be. Like who to believe or whatever, but
because there are people actually getting robbed in Rio. Athletes getting robbed, like in dangerous situations actually happening.
That's why you had the U.S. men's basketball team staying on a cruise ship and not even on the mainland.
Keep it away from that. That was pretty cool, by the way.
Yeah, it was pretty sick. I mean, if anybody can pull that off, they can.
Yeah.
But so now we'll move on to the last part. Now it's enough on Lochte. On to another dummy. Yeah. That's a female dummy.
Yeah, it's two dummies making dumb moves. I mean, Hope Solo, it's a little bit more complicated. It's a lot more complicated.
Well, as you all know, Han Solo's daughter.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard.
Yeah.
I mean, it was bound to be made eventually, so might as well throw that out there.
So she came from the Star Wars universe to our universe. I feel like she didn't know our cultural rules, and no, okay. No.
That would explain a lot.
She was a harsh person. She came from a really a live or die wild, wild west place. No, but her situation, she just at the end of the Olympics here, I think this is really just the last straw in this situation. She said that was it Sweden were a bunch of cowards? Was it Team Sweden? She said some team were a bunch of cowards, but these actions, on top of her recent domestic violence issues, on top of the fact that there are a bunch of rumors, or there's rumors and reports that she has done a bunch of things to annoy her USA teammates and really piss them off and cause discord in that locker room. I think the crime is, or the punishment, 6 months suspension.
It's weak.
You think it's it is weak because she's only going to be missing 3 games. 3 games she might not even be playing in. I see it on that side. I see it's definitely weak on that side. But apparently they've also suspended her contract in this way as well, so she won't be making money for those 6 months suspension. So I can sort of see, because as opposed to Ryan Lochte making his money from advertisements, I don't see Hope Solo making those money. She might have an advert. I've seen her maybe in 2 advertisements ever, I feel like, and that was maybe 4 years ago in 2012 when it was a little more, or whenever the Women's World Cup was. So she does make some of her money from USA Soccer, because they are a money making endeavor.
I don't ever see her getting any kind of endorsements really now, because of the fact that it's not only the domestic violence. I mean, that was mainly what it is domestic violence stuff, and now the fact that she's a poor sport on top of it. It's just I can't imagine an ad going just oh, kids out there, you should want to play your sport, and your spouse ever back talks you, sit them back down.
This is closer for the Cubs is in this commercial. Ray Rice is in this commercial.
Aroldis Chapman, Ray Rice, Hope Solo, Jose Reyes. It's everybody.
Yeah. See, what was I gonna say? I forgot my Hope Solo point. Okay. So the 6 month suspension. Okay, it was based solely just to look bad in public. But if you're a soccer fan, you're like, she's not missing any games. There's no important games in these 6 months. She's really not missing anything where she could have played or even might have played. These were going to be games where they probably would have gone. She's getting old. These are games where they might have wanted to get in new people to see how they look at goaltender. So you never know if she was even ever going to play in these games. So it really seems like a whole lot of show, not a lot of actual substance to it.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because she had a lot of potential. Obviously, she was one of the
good.
She was one of the more feared goalies, I think, around, and she was kind of what brought that U.S. women's national team into contention and into the international eye. And it was like girls like her, and back when Abby Wambach was playing, and then you had Alex Morgan now in that new wave of people coming in with women's soccer. Mm-hmm. You were hoping a kind of dynasty could form there, but it's sad. It really is just sad, just because she's, like I said, immensely talented, but the fact that you let your ego get to you like that, and you have to come up with excuses, and then you have the troubles that in your home life and stuff like that. Granted, it's not other people's business, but it does start to become other people's business when that's like that. That's not somebody that you got to set an example. Like people, like we said earlier, those are the kind of people that the younger people look up to. Is like the sports stars, the media stars and stuff like that. And like it or not, you're going to be in the public eye, and you can't be coming out with stuff like, oh, I just got in a fist fight with my husband, or my sister or sister-in-law or something like that, whatever. And then be dogging on other teams like, oh, we should have won anyway. They're all scaredy cats and stuff like that. I was
Hope
like, come
Solo
on.
has been one of the faces of a rising sport in America the past 10 years. She has been part of some of the most successful USA soccer teams. The sport has gone much bigger in the USA in these past 20 years or so, partially due to that. So it's not like you can even say, oh, she's not that big of an influence on people. I'm willing to bet she's, like, her play style and whatnot is a huge influence based off how soccer has grown so much in these years. So it's sad to see. Sad to see.
Yeah, I agree. But, what are we going to do about it?
We're going to talk about it from behind these microphones. Because that's what we do.
We're going to go out and play women's soccer. We're going to lead that next wave.
You can get on that.
I played soccer when I was 6.
I played 1 year of soccer when I was 6 too. And it's too much running.
Yeah.
All right, you wrap it up?
Yeah, that's going to about do it for today's show. So it's been fun hanging out with y'all.
Yeah.
Did our first little live
I know, I like this
shoot
Facebook Live.
here. Yeah,
we didn't
I like
actually stop and have to do anything over. We just went straight through. We were like, let's do this.
Yeah, you guys were in for a treat today.
Yeah.
No, we kept the cussing to a minimum too.
There was one point where I turned to you and I was like, crap. But yeah, let's go. It's before this song runs out.
So, social media, like we're using right now, you can hit us up on Facebook. That's what we're live streaming with right now. I'm on Facebook. Eric's on Facebook. He doesn't use his as much though. But
I really don't.
like the Dub and Harmon page on Facebook. Also subscribe to us on iTunes and YouTube, and we also use Spreaker. Thank you to Spreaker for helping us out.
Have a good day. Have a good night. We'll give our social medias later. Wherever you're listening, have a good time.
All right, you stay classy.